There is a town in Mexico called La Huacana. It is in the hotlands of the state of Michoacan. And that town is in serious trouble. There is no water. Well, just a little bit of water. When you open the tap, you don't get anything but air, except once a week. The river is so small, if not dried up at certain points. And rain, months, many, many weeks with no water at all. Fields are dry. People talk, what are we going to do? But in this town, there's a very particular group of men. They are called the Forest Group from Purimbo. And they have been working very hard for the town, for nature, basically, for 7 years. So they gathered at their nursery, their tree nursery, to talk about what could they do. They said, we have already spoken in schools about taking care of water, of trees. We have made a big engineering project that we gave to the government, and they threw it away in the garbage. We have made these deep holes with rocks to try and stop erosion and keep the water there. We have been planting trees. We've planted 300,000 local trees, the species that are from here. But it's not enough. We don't have any water. We can't even plant. And suddenly there was a very uncomfortable silence. And then Rodolfo, he's always the smarty guy. He spoke out and he said, let's go talk to the volcano, to the Jorullo. Lalo, who sort of makes the decisions most of the times, just looked up and said, yeah, let's talk to the volcano. But Lalo's very smart. He is a very silent person. He's always observing, always listening. And he looked at his friends and he realized all the rest of the people from the group were very excited about the idea. They wanted to go to the volcano. And he thought, well, we're really stressed out. You know, a nice walk uphill. It's not that far, fresh air. That can help. And so he said it was a good idea. And the next morning, those men started climbing the volcano. You see, La Huacana and the neighboring Ario are very fortunate. They have a volcano that came out of the ground only 260 years ago. From zilch, from nothing, it sprouted up. And now it's 1,000 meters high. And so they climbed it. You know, they were joking around and sometimes they were silent. And suddenly they bumped into Mr. Don Lupe. He was on his horse. He lived right down next to the volcano. And they started chatting and they got way to the top. And once they were there enjoying the view, Lalo said, okay, now what, Rodolfo? And Rodolfo, well, let's go to the crater and talk to the volcano. And Lupe went with them because he knows that volcanoes talk. And they arrived there and Lupe said, hello.
Don Volcán.
And then the volcano answered. The other men almost fell on the ground. They couldn't believe it. And yes, the volcano said, hey, what's up? And Rodolfo, who was the guy with the idea, said, can you please help us? We need help. And the volcano just laughed and, put out a little bit of smoke here, a little bit of smoke there. And then he said, oh, no, I can't help. I'm too young. I'm only 260 years old. Go see the old guys. And Rodolfo sort of, stuttering said, and who are the old guys? Well, the Cerro de la Copa on the other side. He's 3 billion years old. Okay, sounds like a good idea. And they all said, gracias, thank you. And they left. They came down the volcano, and the next morning, Lalo, who did not believe in all this hocus pocus of mountains talking, he was the first one at the place where they had agreed to meet, outside the local farmer's house. And yes, they went to the Cerro de la Copa. They knew that place really well because that's where they had done all these huge, big wells to keep the erosion from coming down. And they climbed like 4 hours. They got to the top, that beautiful view. And this time Lalo spoke out. he spoke out straight to the old mountain, who was once a volcano many years ago. And he said, Señor Cerro, por favor, ayúdenos. Please help us. And the mountain answered, slowly, because, he's an older person, an older mountain, you should say. And he said, what is the matter? I am going to speak to you only because I have observed everything you have done. You men, all by yourselves, you have saved so many animals. Thanks to you, the birds are flying in La Huacana again. Parakeets, the big chachalacas. Thanks to you, there are deers again. I will talk to you. And so Lalo said, we have no more water. The water is finishing. And the cerro said, no, el agua no se acaba. On the earth, there's always the same amount of water from day one till the end. You don't know how to administrate it, which is something else. And then Valentin, who never opens his mouth, but he exploded, said, but it's not raining. And then the mountain spoke. Said, yes, it's not raining, but that's the humans' fault because you have cut down the trees. Trees are the ones that bring water, not rain, not the ocean. Here in La Huacana, it is the tree that brings the water. The tree receives all the rain that pours down when it comes from the ocean, and the tree absorbs it. And during months, it opens its leaves and its pores, and little droplets come out and make little clouds above. And that cloud will give you that soft rain that can really feed the land so you can grow your crop. The tree holds on to the earth with its roots. If you take the tree down, then you have all this mud that fills up your river and fills up your dam so you don't have water. And the tree, what you call garbage, the leaves that fall, the branches that fall, the bark that lays on the ground, that makes a big, big pile of vegetation. And that vegetation stops the rain and makes it slowly to go down into the earth. Even the trunk of a beautiful tree will stop the water, and then it flows slowly down into the earth. And then it will go to the humans because it goes underneath. It goes into the wells, in the ojos de agua, into the river. You don't want water just rushing down and tearing your bridges down. And yes, well, the human men looked down and they were sort of embarrassed, but they're very stubborn, this forest group, Purimbo. They're very stubborn. And so they kept insisting, and they said, please, montaña, por favor, ayúdanos, help us. And so the cerro said, okay, the only ones that can help you are the trees. Let's ask them. And the cerro started to move, and the earth shook, and yes, he yelled out the petition, trees, will you help the humans? The trees received the message because plants and trees are very sensitive to sound. And they thought about it, but you have to understand that each tree is like a whole world. The leaves from the top have to talk to the leaves of the bottom. The branches have to talk between each other. And then the trunk, the middle part with the outside part, and talk about roots. Roots are bigger underneath the ground than the whole top of the tree. And so they had to communicate from the top to the bottom to the sides. And each tree made a decision. Oh, yeah. And then each tree had to send his decision to the other tree. And yes, trees communicate, of course, not really through birds, underground, and not through the roots. There's these little tiny mushrooms called in Spanish ifas. And those mushrooms have huge tentacles. I mean, we're talking mile-long tentacles that spread out in the forest. And all these tentacles are connected. And that's how trees send messages to each other. And they all talked about this. And finally, the largest, the parota, gave his answer to the mountain. And he said, we have decided, Señor Cerro, we have decided we will not help out the humans They cut us down. They burn us down. They torture us by tying us up, by putting inside our trunk burnt oil. They cut our leaves, and so we cannot breathe. We will not help. Fortunately, the humans, the friends, the men that were up there, they were sitting down. Because the Cerro got so angry, he started to shake one way and the other. He was so furious. He just exploded out and said, "How dare you, trees? I saw you when you were nothing but a little worm in the water. I saw you when you were born. And yes, you grew big and tall. And yes, you threw out all this oxygen that made it possible for humans and animals to exist. It's true. But don't forget that humans come from that same little worm. In each one of you trees, there's a part of you that is human. And in each human being, there's a part of that person that is a tree. We are all connected. How dare you say no?" Wow. I mean, it's hard enough when your mother scolds you. Imagine a mountain scolding you. So the trees quickly connected underground again, and they accepted. They accepted to send at least two of the strongest of their species down to the humans. And the higuera, the higuera, there's a lot of higuera, so they sent like 200 of them. And even the small frijolillo accepted. The guayabo, the beautiful guayabo, shiny, almost silver. And those men, Valentin, Joel, Lalo, Rodolfo, Mario, Dani, they were so fortunate. From the top of the mountain, they saw such a spectacle. They saw these huge trees pull their roots out of the earth slowly and start to walk down the mountain. Suddenly, Lalo had a reaction and said, "Oh no, we have to guide them." And the men ran down the mountain as best they could. They didn't even say thank you. They just ran to be in front of the trees. And yes, they led the trees into the town. Yep. The town of La Huacana received a parade of trees. El tamarindo, la parota, la higuera, el cueramo, el cirián, los frijolillos, los hediondillos, all these beautiful, amazing trees walked past the square of La Huacana. And they went straight to the other side, where the forest men took them. And they took them to the other mountain where all the trees had been cut down. And they spread them out and say, a parota here, 3 higueras here, the frijolillos over there. And yes, why not? The mango trees here also, even though they come from Africa. And over here we want the tamarinds. And over here the beautiful, beautiful cueramo. And soon enough, the trees started to put their roots back into the earth. And I promise I'm not lying. In less than 2 years, the town of La Huacana, the river Huamito of La Huacana, was full. The town had water everywhere. Just like 100 years ago, in the streets there was a little canal where water would run all the time. And those canals were full again. Yep. So the Huacanenses were happy. But not only that, imagine, they learned something else. You know, the people that owned that side of the mountain were not very happy because now where would they put their cows? So one of them was desperate and said, "Oh, I'm just going to throw my cows into the forest." And he did. And usually cows in La Huacana in the month of May, wow, it's embarrassing. I mean, they look like a sack of bones walking around. But not now. They were under the trees, and guess what they ate? Yes, they ate all the fruits that fell from the tree, the vainas we call. There's these elephant-shaped vainas, there's these long vainas. They ate them. They ate pieces of bark. They even ate the green leaves. And those cows were nice and strong in the month of May. And the other guy who wanted to plant so bad, and now he had these trees in the middle of his field, well, he went ahead and planted. And you guessed it. His crop was fine. Because if you plant the right way, it's okay to do it under the trees. And so now La Huacana is like a paradise. It's called an oasis. Well, now it's really an oasis. It has water. It has trees with the shade, with the fruits, with the birds, everything that comes with a tree. It has food, and it even has steaks for whoever wants to eat meat. So I'm really glad for a change to tell a happy story, a happy tree story just for you.